Now, one of the biggest issues I've had with all the live-action Star Wars series on Disney Plus so far is that they've all felt kind of small. And I don't just mean the scope and scale of the stories themselves. Not everything always has to be epic, though, yeah, Star Wars tends to be pretty epic a lot of the time. Nor am I saying this smaller feeling made the shows bad. I think the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian worked well being something smaller in scale, especially after the sequels. But anyway, just the general feeling of the shows has felt small. The fact that we tend to only have or run into a few important characters, and a lot of the planets we go to have a very similar vibe or feel to them. They all tend to feel like rocky or desert-ish planets, if you will. There's also, and this was especially the case in Kenobi, I'd say, the feeling like things are, I don't know, kind of cramped. Like, you can tell they're on a soundstage using the volume. And if you don't know what that is, what the volume is, to put it very, very simply, way too simply in fact, it's a giant LED screen that's used as a backdrop when filming. It's like a green screen that already has the images in place for the actors to see their surroundings, instead of it being added later in post-production. And though I think the technology is pretty incredible and will no doubt get even better as the years go by, I do think there are times, again mainly in Kenobi, where it shows its limitations, that no matter how good technology gets in general, it's just hard to replicate the feeling or look of something actually physically being there. It's hard to top well-done practical effects and being on location, or having large constructed, again physical sets. I mean, there's a reason why, by and large, a lot of the visual effects in the original Star Wars trilogy still look good and hold up today. Why I still think, though I might be a bit biased considering it's my favorite film of all time, that the battle over Endor, the space battle over Endor, is the best looking space battle I've ever seen in a movie. Problem is, with practical effects, large sets, and being on location, is that it's usually much cheaper to just do as much as you can digitally, and the real lure of using something like the volume is that it makes things cheaper and easier in general, which isn't to say that it's the only reason it's used. Again, it is impressive technology with a bright future, but it certainly is one of them. It has to cut down on all sorts of costs, not only not have to send actors and film crews around the world to construct who knows what kind of elaborate sets when you get there, but to instead just stay in one place and do a lot of the work, again, digitally. And thus I was rather surprised to learn that the upcoming Andor series was going to only use the volume sparingly, that it was mainly going to go on location and use constructed sets, and that it was going to be using a lot of practical effects in general. Which I'd have to imagine means that this is going to be a rather expensive project when compared to all the other Star Wars shows we've gotten on Disney Plus so far, especially when you consider the first season of Andor is going to be 12 episodes, which is longer by at least 4 episodes than any other series so far. And that's surprising because, well, you'd think they would have gone, shall we say, the distance with Kenobi and the Book of Boba Fett, that the two legacy characters would get the royal treatment over a virtual no-name. And it almost feels like, with Kenobi and Fett, that they figured they could cut corners or put in less effort and money because they knew a lot of fans or people in general were going to watch based off those character names alone. I mean, if you're Disney or Lucasfilm and you're really concerned about making money over everything else, why put in the effort when your audience is all but guaranteed and you know, for better or worse, many fans are going to praise something like Kenobi simply because of the return of Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor. And don't get me wrong, no matter how I may feel about the rest of the series, it was indeed pretty awesome to see both of them again, and I am especially happy for Hayden Christensen, who took quite a bit of flack back when the prequels came out, and is now being warmly embraced by the fan base. But just them coming back doesn't mean the actual series was good, and sure, it may have some cool moments because of them, but a few cool moments doesn't equate to necessarily being good, or at least it shouldn't. Either way, when it comes to Andor, a character not a lot of people remember, or to be blunt, really care about, or at least not yet, that'll hopefully change after or during the series, well, they have to put in the effort to get people to watch and keep watching because, again, he is a no-name. That name alone, the name of the series, isn't much of a draw in and of itself. And, quite honestly, I'm surprised this series actually finally got made and will be coming out in a little over a month. If you recall, it was the first ever announced live-action Star Wars series and was talked about shortly after Rogue One came out and was, of course, a hit with both fans and at the box office. And though, yeah, it's a bit frustrating that seemingly the effort and cost put into creating this Andor series exceeds what was put into the Kenobi and Fett series, it does get me hopeful and excited after being very much deflated by the mediocrity of those two series, especially when I hear showrunner Tony Gilroy say that we're dealing with, 190 speaking parts in the first 12 episodes, and you're carrying over 25 to 30 characters that we care about from the first half to the second half. The first 3 episodes are pretty contained in our show. It's pretty much about this one place and this one couple of days. And then when episode 4 starts, we just start adding characters, and the world just gets really, really wide. And you know what's kind of funny about that is, I don't know if there's 190 speaking parts in all the other Star Wars shows combined, nor have they created 25 to 30 characters that we quote-unquote care about in total, I think. Yet Andor's got all of that in the first season alone, and there's already a plan in place for the confirmed second season. And though, no, bigger doesn't always mean better, in fact, a lot of the time it ends up being worse, in this particular case, I'm really hoping it will be. I'm really hoping Andor will not only be good, but be a success. One that's embraced by the fan base, not just because I want it to be good and embraced by the fan base, but so that it sends a message to Disney and Lucasfilm about what fans want and deserve out of Star Wars, so that we can stop getting half-assed, lazy shows that feature legacy characters just to lure people in, and start getting something better made all around. And yeah, I know I'm having delusions of grandeur right now. Modern entertainment isn't about creating the best possible story and experience for the audience, it's about getting the most people to watch with the least amount of money spent and effort put into it. And so far, Lucasfilm has done a really good job of that with the Star Wars series on Disney+, which isn't to say they've all been bad. The Mandalorian Season 1 and 2 does feel like it had a little bit more money and effort put into it, and sure enough, it ended up being a success, at least in my opinion. But since then, it's felt like they've cut as many corners as possible, so here's to hoping that changes with Andor. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to take to the comments below and tell me what you think. Are you surprised that it seems like Andor has more time, effort, and money put into it than the previous 2 shows, than Kenobi and Fett? And does that make you perhaps angry or maybe more hopeful and excited for it? Whatever the case may be, leave your comments below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.